Oh, you're a cruel one, Gege. But I can't say you didn't warn us. What's up, guys? Okkotsu here, and here we are to do a breakdown / discussion on not how powerful Gojo is, not how fast Gojo is, not how durable Gojo is, none of that. What we are here to do a breakdown and discussion on is simply Gojo as a writing choice, and specifically Gojo as a twist and a culmination of a story. Essentially, the story of Yuta Okkotsu, how it's sort of been building to Gojo this entire time, under the scenes, behind the scenes, and why I think ultimately it works really, really well. But let's not waste any more time, and let's hop right into it. Editing me, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact. I guess you could say that Yuta Okkotsu has, well, I guess technically you could say Gojo Satoru has Yuta Okkotsu in him and will have him in him. Maybe not at all times, but with that being the case, Gojo, he's been controversial, to say the very least. Half the community loves it, the other half of the community hates it, a third half of the community, I know the math ain't mathing, but trust me, a third half of the community is indifferent. But Gojo, the fusion of Yuta Okkotsu and Satoru Gojo, the second strongest of the modern day and the first strongest of the modern day, fusing together to fight against the strongest in history. Overall, simply the strongest itself. Number one, simply as a writing choice, I do like that. Once again, I think a big thing that Gege's been succeeding very, very well at is making Sukuna feel unstoppable, eternal, immortal, undeniable. Destiny, like, straight up. He feels exactly like Thanos did in Infinity War and even to a certain degree in Endgame, where he just feels unstoppable, undefeatable, infallible. And there's no better way to prove that than having him beat both the first and second strongest so badly, and they decide to do the fusion dance in the most awkward way possible. But, of course, that's for Sukuna's narrative. What we're here to talk about is Gojo's narrative, and by proxy, Yuta's narrative, as well. I do call him Gojo. Yeah, Gojo ain't in there. That man's been in the airport for a minute now. But why? Why do I think this is like a well-executed twist? What even builds up to it? Why do I think this is actually one of my favorite twists in all of Jujutsu Kaisen, comparable to a previous twist that I'll talk about in a little bit? Let's talk about why. So, one of my biggest things about writing twists is I don't mind when they come out of absolutely nowhere. You can shatter my ankles. I'm fine with that. You know, they're fragile. So I'd like you to not hit them too hard with the hammer, but you can hit them pretty hard. I don't mind if they break or shatter or anything like that. But the thing about Gojo is that it works because it's sort of been Yuta Okkotsu's entire journey up to a certain point. And the journey of selflessness and the journey of doing anything for others, including consuming and overriding others. So, obviously, in my opinion, the earliest hint at Gojo isn't actually even in this manga. It's all the way back in Zero when it gets confirmed that ultimately Yuta Okkotsu and Satoru Gojo are actually very, very similar in terms of their bloodlines and their potential. We have tied Yuta and Gojo together for a very long time. Not simply just because Yuta is the second strongest of the modern day, not just because of his willingness to become a monster. No, simply because the two are actually related. If distant cousins, they are still cousins, which is something that is extremely rare. Something that only those two share, meaning that a hypothetical biological link between the two isn't just hypothetical, it actually exists. So the basis for that is laid. But in terms of the modern manga, I'd say the earliest hint to Gojo goes all the way back to this. Yuta Okkotsu, huh? I don't really get what everyone sees in him. His ability to copy cursed techniques, and his boundless cursed energy. Both were a result of him having to detain his loved one's soul. Sorry to say, but Yuta Okkotsu can't become the next Satoru Gojo. Good night, Satoru Gojo. Let us meet again in the new world. For reference, this takes place in chapter 90. At the time of Gojo's proper reveal, you could argue it's 260, but realistically it's 261. Over 100 chapters, the idea that Yuta Okkotsu could not become the next Satoru Gojo has been laid, almost as a trap, realistically. It puts the idea in our minds that Yuta could hypothetically become the strongest. He could hypothetically become the next Satoru Gojo. He could rise to his level. But with someone as powerful, as smart, as intelligent, as dangerous, as knowledgeable as Kinjaku saying otherwise, it puts this false sense of expectation. It lays the idea, it lays the trap there, but covers that trap up, sort of how you would do with an actual trap. You don't leave that out in the open, you overlay it with something. So, by hinting at it all the way then, it puts the idea of Yuta as Gojo, or the next Gojo, in our minds. The next major step, honestly, is in chapter 181, well after Yuta's introduction, or reintroduction into the manga. It comes to a conversation that he has with Uro. It's very short, it's very brief, but it's the idea that you're reaching your limit. I've seen it. Sorcerers, cursed spirits, and strong fighters all get driven over the edge by the same thing. Overwhelming aggression that blinds them to everything else. Like a calamity. You're soft, Okkotsu. And that ain't a compliment. Uro said the same thing. That there's no benefit to sparing an opponent's life. Huh? She was still alive? My blast must have been weaker after the domain expansion. She kept bringing something up. Was it a lover's quarrel? Something like that. Stop acting like this is a pain. There's nothing I could have said to her. It would have been like a slap in the face. Because I'm blessed. Huh. Really? I don't understand. Anyway, give me your points. Once again, we're laying this idea that Yuta Okkotsu himself is kind of limited in one way, shape, or form, right? Limited by his softness, limited by his humanity, limited by the kindness that exists within his soul. That ultimately he gains nothing from being kind, he gains nothing from being human, and ultimately that will haunt him in the long run. It will break him in the long run. It's the thing that may prevent him from becoming the strongest, this overwhelming calamity. Something with overwhelming aggression that blinds him to everything else. We're laying the groundwork again. That Yuta Okkotsu has the potential within him, yet there's some sort of blockage that he himself cannot physically overcome. And it continues. All the way to here. Where Yuta Okkotsu's humanity, to some way, shape, or form, does delay him, does weaken him. To a point where he lets a certain something slide. But this is where the foreshadowing shifts to something more subtle and more unique. If you'll remember, way back when, me and many others were like, Yuta, there is no way on this good green earth you sat there having a whole conversation with this head thing instead of just absolutely slicing it to ribbons. But now, with retrospect and knowledge of what 261 lays out, it makes sense that Yuta didn't go for the head, specifically the brain case, because he needed it. It makes sense that Yuta was willing to entertain conversation and slowly approach it, because in his heart, there was hesitation. In his heart, there was delay, because he knew what this meant. The defeat of Kinjaku wasn't just the defeat of Kinjaku, it was the opening to another door, another possibility. The possibility of Goda. And ultimately, that hesitates him. It staggers him. It prevents him from simply diving for it. Because if there's one thing that 261, 260, and every other appearance of Yuta will hammer into your head, it's the idea that Yuta ultimately doesn't seek power in the same way that a Kashimo did, or a Sukuna did, or for a very, very, very short time, a Gojo did. He's different, and he fears that part of himself, and he fears that potential to become a calamity. He wants to ultimately stay human, even if he's willing to become a monster. So ultimately, this retroactively explains his passivity, because he can't do too much damage to Kinjaku's brain. Because as far as he knows, that's the key to the ultimate final step. The key to freedom. The key to Satoru Gojo and his body. The one thing that he can't access on his own. It rationalizes all this. Once again, all the hints are just laid there. From Kinjaku mentioning the idea that he could never become the next Satoru Gojo, putting the idea in our minds, yet underlaying it, to Uro and Ryu both acknowledging Yuta's innate humanity, and that as a weakness that will prevent him from becoming the next Satoru Gojo in his own physical form, to his gentle, relatively speaking, treatment of Kinjaku, where he doesn't just shish kebab the man immediately, but rather remove his head and simply pierce it here instead of slicing it in half. All that builds to a similar case and a similar underlying factor of the original body hopper twist, of the original one that Gege laid out for us. Meguna is another one of my favorite twists in the entire series, Once again, because it has layers upon layers upon layers of build-up. But while Megumi typically has build-up in the sense that Sukuna has explicitly had interest in Megumi for a very, very long time, and explicitly sets up a binding vow, and does a whole bunch to ensure Megumi's safety in order to make sure that he could become the next perfect vessel, and waits until his soul is shattered, all of that is beautiful, and nice, and great, and wonderful. But the reason I think I may even like the Goto twist more is because of how underlying it is, and because of how much sense it makes, and because how it was executed. The Megumi twist isn't simply hinted at, and nor does it have the same kind of immediate weight that something like Goto does. Mainly because the Megumi twist happens like right at the end of chapter 212. It's a twist upon a twist that we take an entire half of a chapter on top of a twist with Yorozu. We're like really deep down into it. But what this lacks, that Goto ends up having, is 261. This potential for reconnection, this potential for hope, this potential for the return of someone. That someone being, obviously, Satoru Gojo himself, a ghost of immense strength, who he had buried with his own hands. By doing it like this, by having Goto appear at the end of 260, and having Sukuna himself being in shock and denial over it, it built the anticipation, which is something that Megumi doesn't necessarily do. It builds the anticipation in the chapter, but we had the whole week of anticipation, and then the reveal itself gets to not only succeed off of all the build-up that's been hinting to the Goto reveal, from Kinjaku's own mention of the possibility, to Earl and Ryu's mention of the contradiction of the possibility, to Yuta's treatment of Kinjaku, all that, it builds perfectly to the reveal of Goto. Because you know, by one look, that it's him. That it's Yuta Okkotsu, not Satoru Gojo. This is the culmination of everything. It simultaneously proves Kinjaku wrong and right. It simultaneously proves Uro and Ryu both wrong and right. This is a result of Yuta's humanity. Yet, it is a contradiction to Yuta's humanity simply because it sacrifices himself and disrespects and desecrates the body of his sensei. It's that perfect balance. It fits into everything that Yuta's narrative and build-up to this was. If you'll notice, every bit of build-up has logic and contradiction to it. Yuta Okkotsu is powerful, but he cannot become the next Satoru Gojo. Yuta Okkotsu is kind, but he cannot become the next Calamity, not become the next monster simply because he is kind. Yuta Okkotsu is smart enough and wise enough to immediately go for the head, remove Kinjaku from the plot, but he's not moving quickly enough to immediately execute him. Just like this is the contradiction. Yuta Okkotsu is willing to take a monstrous act in order to become the next monster, become the next Satoru Gojo, fully formed from taking over his very flesh. But ultimately, by one look, you can tell how it stands in contrast to Satoru Gojo himself, and once again, the previous twist. Look at how Sukuna responds when he finally takes over the body that he's been waiting to have for oh so long. He responds to Yuji with a smile. Because this is the culmination of a plot that was laid out for longer, and also has drastic implications. But just as Yuta Okkotsu has finally proven everyone wrong, finally become the strongest, finally did what everyone said he could not do, he does not greet it with a smile. He greets the sacrifice of his self, possibly his flesh and possibly his life, with a haunting focus. Because he realizes the danger that now comes with this. Now, it's do or do not do. It's win or fall. That's why Goto works so well for me. Because of the build-up, because of the execution, and because of how the twist culminates almost every single aspect of Yuta's character. To the point where I am very excited to see him battle. And while I do personally stand on the camp that Goto, the fusion between Yuta Okkotsu and Satoru Gojo, must fall for the sake of the narrative, I do believe that this end to Yuta's narrative, where he proves everyone wrong and right, using his kindness to become the strongest, and his humanity to dive a foot, if not a toe, into monsterhood. It's beautiful. It's perfect. It takes in every aspect of Yuta's character and a lot of the themes of JJK and lays them bare. So now the real question is, will Yuta Okkotsu be proven wrong? Or will Yuta Okkotsu be proven right? That's what still is yet to be seen. And I'm so excited to find out. However, of course, all that being said, that's what I think. Please tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. How do you think Gojo's handled as a twist? Do you like the build-up that Gege did? Do you almost wish that there was more build-up a little bit more explicitly? Do you like how it's going to work out? Are you excited to see how that future is going to go? Please let me know all that and more in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure that little keys bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave twist plot. Leave twist plot. Not plot twist. Not plot twist, because that'd be too basic. Leave twist plot in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the little keys so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reaction to the very next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, ad-free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 Patreon or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you can leave $5 for a short video, 25 beans for a long video, or any support at all. It's always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to thank you to our $3 members, Recliner Plays, Greyhound, Akids Void, Astro, Eternal Flame, King Sukuna, NMA, Real Rare, Paris Arnold, G Prosper, and Red Wolf 4765. And I'd like to thank you to our $5 patrons, Steron, Sean, Sammy, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, and A+A. And I'd like to thank you to our $7 patrons, Autumn Mornings Lazo, and Fine. And I'd like to thank you to our $10 members, Robbie Uchiha and Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give another thank you to our $10 patrons, Panda Goat, Metal Solid Crisis, Joaquin Munoz, and Joaquin Munoz, along with Idemokami. And I'd like to give a final gargantuan thank you to our $25 patron, Calvin Elder.